I was calling to find out, I believe it was Detective Purvis that came out and spoke with Candy. I was wondering if you knew whether there had been any warrants issued for... No, he knows where the shelter is here. He told her, I know where the shelter is. I know where to find you. You know, this is pretty serious.
Even though I choose to be around him when I shouldn't, and I know that I shouldn't, but it's only because of the fact that I'm scared. And I feel like if I don't do anything he asked of me, like come when he calls, or stop everything I'm doing just to be there, that he would hurt me.
So, tell me, what just happened?
He texted me saying he's on his way to Collapse Car Wash here in Pittsburgh.
Here?
Hey, buddy. I have a question for you. One of the residents at the shelter, her abuser keeps calling her on her cell phone. Gene was going to text him back and say, "Where are you?" and then called the Pittsburgh PD and say, "Here's where he says he is." Is that some kind of entrapment? Not entrapment.
How you good, baby? How about I text him back and say, where are you at? Where are you at? Okay, good. Let's see how long it takes.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. How do you
Just left Elizabeth's Pizza.
All right.
Hey, he just texted her and said he just left Elizabeth's Pizza. Do you want to text him back and say, I will meet you at Claps in 5 minutes?
Okay.
She's texting him now.
Police everywhere.
He said, police is everywhere. That's what he...
Oh, my God.
So...
Swarm me. Did you do this?
He just texted her and said, swarm me. Did you do this? Did they get him? That's what he...
License check.
Oh, he was in a license check. If they just did a fucking license check, why?
It should be in the system.
On my way to Al's Diner.
Tell him be there in 5... You text be there in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chief.
All right. All right, bye.
Are they gonna go get him?
Yeah, he said just be vigilant and keep documenting. I did it. I made the call. I did it, okay? This is Ed. Hello? Hey. Right next door to, not right up from the shelter. Yeah.
That's a half block from here. Less than half a block.
Ed thinks that's where he's at. Check to see where she is. Woo! Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Ed. You sure they got him? Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. I hope they set his bond high enough to where he can't get out, because he is going to be one pissed off. Thanks. Yes! I'm so happy.
It's okay.
All right, sweetie?
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Yes, it's hard. Yes, it is. It's very hard.
I feel like it's my fault.
It's not your fault. It is not your fault. You didn't make him who he is. If it wasn't you, it'd be somebody else.
Hey, Charlotte Talks on Listener Funded, 90.7 WFAE and 90.3 WFHE. I'm Mike Collins. We're talking about domestic violence. Kit Crowell is also a survivor. She has worked with California Post, that state's effort to train law enforcement officers to deal with domestic violence, and she is known nationally as an advocate and a community educator on this topic. And you brought a stack of files here.
These are all restraining orders from 1 year in North Carolina. Now, these are not all the restraining orders that were issued. There's probably 45 or 50 orders here, and every single one of the women who went to obtain these orders of protection was murdered in precisely the ways that they said they were going to be. So, you know, I sometimes refer to restraining orders as the last will and testament because, you know, battered women are the experts in what's happening in their relationship, and we need society. We need to treat them like the experts that they are. When she says he's going to kill me, or he's going to kill my family, or he's going to kill my cousin if he can't get to me, we have got to step on the brakes and slow down and take that whole thing seriously. And then when there's a restraining order violation, our judicial officials have to understand that he is showing contempt for the court system, and he truly is a risk to her and to the community at large.
If you're not being hit, if you're not being threatened with a knife or some kind of a weapon, if it's just words, if it's intimidation, if it is belittling, how do you recognize it? How do others recognize it? How do you then get others to help you stop it?
When I do the hostage negotiations class, this is one of the things that I bring up with the negotiators. My late husband was a freak about food intake. He was trying to gain muscle weight, so he wanted a lot of protein calories. And so every night before he went out, he wanted a bowl of ice cream. And on the ice cream, he wanted peanuts because peanuts are so high in protein. So when I went to the grocery store, I had to buy salted peanuts, put them in a colander, rinse them off, and pat them dry, and put the rinsed off peanuts on the ice cream. And while he was eating his ice cream, if he came across salt on the peanuts, he would beat me up because he said I didn't do a good enough job washing the peanuts. So when I go out and do the negotiations class, I say to these cops, what happens when you show up on the scene, you get her out there in the back of the patrol car, and she's saying to you over and over and over again, I should have done a better job washing the peanuts. And when women say stuff like that, it's not because they're crazy, it's because of the way they're really living. Our criminal justice system requires that she be beaten enough to satisfy the system. And by the time it gets to that point, she's already been so worn down psychologically and physically and emotionally. That's when it's really time for advocates to really step up and begin to treat her like she has some value, because she's been told now systemically that she doesn't. You know, the courts have told her that she doesn't have value, and her partners told her that she doesn't have value. Perhaps family and friends have done that through their actions with her. And all of that strips away from her. So I think another thing that advocates do is, instead of stripping away, we try to build back up. You know, a lot of times battered women leave 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and people start to get tired of it. They see a woman leave an abuser and then go back. It's complicated. Leaving an abuser is not an event, it's a process. And this is where advocates come in. It's not our job to say to her, we're going to be your advocate when you leave the first time, when you leave the second time, when you leave the third time, but on that fourth time, we're not working with you anymore. That's not how it goes. If we're going to be effective advocates, we're going to recognize that each woman's case is unique and each woman's case is special. Anybody have any experiences with the boyfriend or the husband? You've had that experience?
It went on for 9 years.
Wow.
I left and went back 3 times, and I won't this time. And this last time, he almost killed me in front of my daughter. And now I have had 23 seizures, and my daughter has seen every one of them, and she takes care of me.
But what happened to you shouldn't happen to anybody ever.
I know that. That's why I'm here.
What do your parents have to say about it?
Why didn't you just leave?
Did he ever threaten to kill you?
Yeah, lots of times. My mom called the police officers, and one of the officers said that he knew my husband and that he knew he was a violent person, but he wasn't violent enough to kill someone. They can't file charges for the abuse that I went through because it happened in another state. And so I'm left to just live with it.
It's very hard in Deanna's case to see a woman get so hideously beaten and then essentially to have the local courts say, well, you know, we're sorry that happened to you, but we're just gonna let it go. We just can't let this go. Something has to be done. I do this work because, because I survived a really violent relationship. You know, Jack punched me really hard in the face one time, punched me like I was a man. And it was the whole thing with, doing flips off the porch and, seeing stars and birdies. And I remember thinking, wow, it's really like the cartoons. And for 4 days, I stayed on the couch with a blanket pulled up over my face because I didn't want the boys to see me because I looked so bad. But then I couldn't eat. And I was having a hard time even swallowing stuff, so I knew that I needed to get it looked at. And Jack drove me down to see my OBGYN, and he walked in the room and looked at my face and immediately looked away. And I just remember feeling sort of a whole new layer of isolation because my doctor wouldn't look me in the eye and say, "What happened to you?" How do you feel about telling people about what happened in your case?
It doesn't bother me too much. I feel like it helps.
So let's start at the beginning. What was he like when you all first started dating?
For the first two months, he was really sweet and nice. And then he kind of questioned what I had done in the past and wanted to know who my friends were and what I'd done with them. And so, and then it started from there.
And this is Robbie?
Yes, and that's Martina's first Halloween. On Halloween, he told me that I had to go with him on his check-in trip, and I told him no, that I had to work. And he said I was gonna go, that he wasn't gonna leave me there to cheat on him. And so he made me go. And when we got in Tennessee is when he started beating me. Martina, she asked him over and over, "Why are you doing it to why are you hurting my mama?" And he would tell her, "She doesn't love you and she doesn't love me. It's okay to hurt mommy." And he would hit me with the flashlight. He hit me in the head, on the shoulders, the elbows. He would hit my knees so hard that I could hardly bend my legs. He would
while he was beating me, there was a little mirror about that big on the side of the truck, and he would hit me, and then he would get me by the hair and pull me up and make me look in that mirror and ask me if it was worth it. We stopped at one truck stop to get him some meatballs, and Martina said she wanted some, and he said, no, you can't have some until your mommy tells me the truth. And he said, and you can tell your mommy to tell me the truth if you want some. And so she started crying because she was really hungry, and she told me to tell her daddy the truth. And I told her that I had, and she was screaming and begging me, please tell daddy the truth. And that was so hard. Robbie got one of them out of the pack, and he looked at Martina, and he held it in her face, and he said, look, this is going to be so good. And he took a bite of it and was going, Martina, this is so good. And just think, if your mommy had told me the truth, you could have had some. It was just all I could take. And I grabbed the flashlight, and I was just going to beat it. I couldn't stand it, and I was just bound and determined I was going to beat him. And when he saw me grab the flashlight, he dropped the meatballs. And when he did, I grabbed the meatballs and let him beat me with the flashlight, and while I fed the meatballs to her. And I didn't care how hard he hit me, as long as she got those meatballs. I didn't care. The whole time that I fed those meatballs to her, he hit me with that flashlight. And I could feel my knees swelling. It was so hard to hold on to him, but I was bound and determined that I was going to, and I did. I wasn't going to let my baby stop because of him.
He wasn't arrested until, when was it? November 9th? The charges were just like assault on a female. You know, I just felt like, why wasn't there attempted murder? Mm-hmm. Deanna and I had met with that DA, I think a week or two before that, and he had told us that she didn't have a very strong case because most of her stuff happened out of state. The DA said that the grand jury would ask Deanna why she left, what was her reason for leaving the county with him, because at first it was willing, you know, they would say she left willingly. It was after she left North Carolina that the beatings start, so that they would just completely turn it back on her. Mm-hmm. And basically, he was going to get off on the state level for what had happened to her.
I've seen cases like this over and over again where women are severely beaten, sometimes shot, sometimes stabbed, and the offender is charged with assault on a female or assault with a deadly weapon, both charges charged as misdemeanors. But we have a law in the books that says that if you steal a bale of pine straw, that's a felony. Despite the fact that we'd like to think that those laws are outdated, the belief systems behind those laws are still very much a part of the way things get played out in court every day across the country.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to talk with you a little bit about this case in Ashe County involving a woman who was kidnapped. Pretty severe beating.
And when you say kidnapped, do you mean?
Kidnapped.
Okay, held against her will?
Held against her will. She and her daughter.
Transported.
She and her daughter taken out of the state and driven all the way to California and halfway back, and the truck was stopped in Oklahoma. This was in an 18-wheeler. Okay. And he beat her for 4.5 days.
What kind of injuries did she have? Holy crap.
So this is the injuries.
What did he use?
His fists, a mag light flashlight. He bit her.
Any internal injuries? Or is it all tissue injury, soft tissue injury?
Well, he also strangled her.
Okay. Do we have any medical doctor who's going to say these are serious injuries? Because, you know, in state court, that's the tough part, is when we're talking about soft tissue injuries, when you don't have damage to the spleen, internal injuries, or cuts. that require stitches. It's all about getting a medical doctor to say on the stand, yes, this is serious injury. Is it serious bodily injury? Sure. Is it protracted pain and suffering that she has suffered? Yeah, I think so. But even if we succeed on all levels, what I'm telling you, Kit, is that you may not be satisfied with the amount of time that they're going to get at the state level.
If he was convicted only of misdemeanor assault on a female, even with doing this,
Yeah.
what would he be looking at as far as time?
The most he could receive is 150 days in jail.
150 days in jail for this.
That's it. So that's what I'm saying. You have a clear case where he's transporting a woman across state lines for the purpose of terrorizing and assaulting her. That is a federal case all over. And so what we need to do, or what you need to do, since it's not, in my county, is really push and talk to the federal prosecutor in that area, in that district, which would be the Western District, and say, this is the case, and get them interested in it. I think they will be. Mm-hmm. I think they will be.
Yeah. Since you are the nation's foremost expert on strangulation assaults, this looks to me like she was pretty seriously assaulted.
Okay, so give me a 30-second overview, beginning with the fact that she is still living, correct?
She's still alive. She and her daughter were kidnapped by her husband. He beat her from North Carolina to California. The truck was stopped in Oklahoma. Now, he was not arrested by the Oklahoma police. They just told him that he had to find his own way back to North Carolina, and that was it. I mean, when you look at Deanna's photographs as a strangulation expert, what do you see?
All right. Well, it's bad. It's bad. One has to immediately go to the petechiae around her left eye and to a certain extent around her right eye. The white part of her eye, the sclera, looks bloody towards the middle part, and that even looks more like a subconjunctival hemorrhage. So that's the tiny little capillaries in the white part of your eye actually bursting from the chokehold itself. Any emergency physician would be thinking that she had been strangled. Mm-hmm. And that's in addition to the other elements. There should be a lot less here that would have even been prosecuted with a third of this pathology, a tenth of this pathology. But, I can't process that. I can't.
In general, when we are thinking about accepting a case, one of the things I think about is how am I going to prove this case, and if it has to go to trial, how am I going to prove the case at trial? What is my evidence going to be at trial, and how will the jury be affected by that evidence? I mean, the pictures are just, they say it better than any words can. The fact that it seemed to be a very good VAWA case, a Violence Against Women Act case, the interstate domestic violence, we had the crossing of the state lines. It seemed like if we didn't do it, nobody else was going to, because there were a lot of times she didn't know where she was. So she didn't know whether a particular assault happened in Oklahoma or New Mexico, but we knew that she had been forcibly taken from here. So we could prosecute it here, and if we didn't prosecute it here, it may not have been prosecuted any place else because we didn't know where the assaults were taking place. So that also made it compelling. If we weren't going to do anything, then maybe nothing was going to be done, and something had to be done.
Hey there, we're just about there. We're like 5 minutes away. All right, I'll see you in a few minutes. Bye-bye. We're gonna go talk with Deanna about how she's feeling about court and about what it's gonna mean to her to be able to take the witness stand. Say out loud what Robbie did to her and to Martina. Are you nervous about testifying, or do you feel okay about it? So what are you doing to prepare yourself?
Just keep telling myself that I know I can do it, and I've got a lot of people backing me up.
This is Deanna's thick file, her case file. District attorney said that a juror or defense attorney may ask why she didn't call someone and ask for help. And Robbie had told her not to pick up her phone at the truck stop. Stated that many would argue that she had the chance to get away in Virginia when they stopped at a truck stop for several hours.
What do you think you'll say when his defense attorneys try to say things to you like, why didn't you try to get away, or why didn't you call the police, or something like that?
I was too scared. There was lots of ways running through my mind of how I could get away, but I couldn't do it. I was afraid I would wake him up. If Martina had made a noise, he would have instantly woke up. And she had coloring books and crayons. I thought about tearing the back out of one of the coloring books and writing "help me" and sticking it behind the curtain. Maybe people passing by on the interstate would see it and call the law. And then again, I was afraid he would see it, and if he did see it, he would probably have instantly killed me. And I never knew what would happen to Martina.
There were so many injustices that I felt like happened with her. You know, Martina was removed in Oklahoma from Deanna, and that really angered me.
What was it like when they came and took Martina?
It destroyed me. It took everything. It was the hardest moment in my whole life.
I bet. And how often did you see Martina in the time that she was taken away from you?
Twice a week for an hour. Where are we going now? I could talk to her on the phone every night.
What kinds of things did she say to you?
Wanted to know why I gave her away. And that was hard. That was really hard. I would tell her that she was staying with the foster parents so they could protect her. She still asks me now. She still asks me why I gave her away.
So she remembers it.
Yeah.
Wait up, wait up. Wait up.
This was my favorite photo of Martina. It did have Robbie in it, and of course I cut it out. It's just her now. So.
Read it. There's soccer practice. Halloween. Okay, I can't read that. Beware of ghosts and goblins. Beware of ghosts and goblins.
Halloween of 2008, Deanna and her husband were separated. There had been a domestic violence incident earlier in the summer. They were living apart, but it was Halloween, and Deanna decided that she was going to ask Robbie if he wanted to go along with her and their daughter trick-or-treating in downtown West Jefferson, North Carolina. They drove down together to the downtown area, but for some reason, Robbie didn't want to get out of the car. So Deanna took their daughter trick-or-treating, and when she came back to the car, he was focused on the fact that she may have been talking to another male while they were trick-or-treating, and he became jealous. And as the night progressed, he was getting more angry and more angry. He drove them down to a secluded area of a parking lot outside of the local hospital. And so he was confronting her and hitting her, and he eventually got out his lighter and was hitting her ears with the lighter, basically trying to force her to confess that she was involved with another man. All the while, the daughter was asleep in the back of the truck. Finally, in the morning, the daughter woke up and Robbie announced that they were all taking a cross-country truck trip. He had a cousin who co-drove the truck with him, so the arrangement was that he would meet his cousin John to deliver this load to California. They eventually all get into this tractor trailer. They drove across the line from North Carolina to Virginia, stopped at a truck stop, where for a couple of hours, Robbie and John played the video poker machines while Deanna and the daughter walked around the truck stop. Deanna had no money, no cell phone, didn't know anybody up there, so she didn't alert anyone that she was there against her will. She got back into the truck. They drove down into Tennessee, and again, Robbie becomes obsessed with this idea that she's cheating on him, so he has John drive the truck. He gets back in the cab. He wanted to beat her into confessing to cheating on him, and initially she was saying, no, I'm not cheating on you, and he would beat her some more. Well, finally she decided that that wasn't working, so she was gonna admit to cheating on him, hoping that that would get him to stop beating her. So she started saying, yes, I did cheat on you. And then he started saying, well, who, with who? Give me some names. And so she just started spouting off names of people that they knew. So he forced her to use his phone to call these people that she was naming back home in North Carolina. And so people back in North Carolina were getting phone calls in the middle of the night where she admitted that she had cheated on Robbie. She called a husband and wife named the Guys, told the wife, Hope, that she had cheated with Mike, but eventually Hope could tell that something wasn't right, that Deanna's tone on the phone calls, she sounded robotic. Hope got the impression that something was not right. So while the truck is traveling west and Robbie is continuing to beat Deanna and accuse her of cheating on him, people back home are starting to figure out that something is wrong, and they call the trucking company and eventually alert them that there are unauthorized people on the truck. John's driving, they're heading towards Oklahoma, and Robbie this is the absolute worst beating of all.
He took me back to the sleeper of the truck, and that's when he started hurting me the worst. And Martina was sitting there, and he kept covering my face with the pillow, and he was telling me that I wasn't going to make it back to West Jefferson. I couldn't breathe. And when he realized that I wasn't moving, he pulled the pillow off of my face and he started laughing, and he said, I almost got you that time, didn't I? And it was right after that I started having seizures, and I had 3 seizures. And I could hear Martina screaming. I couldn't see anything. I could just hear her screaming. And when I did stop, he pulled me up next to Martina, and I went to sleep. That was the first time the entire trip that I was able to sleep.
Finally, the folks back at home had gotten in touch with the trucking company, and they arranged for the truck to be stopped. It was pulled over by law enforcement in Oklahoma, but as the blue lights were turned on, Robbie told Deanna that they were going to tell the police when they were stopped that he had saved her from a boyfriend back in North Carolina who had beaten her.
I had received a call that had a child in danger and we needed to do a traffic stop on a semi, so that's what I did. And what I found inside was, was the little girl and the mother. In the 15 years I've been a law enforcement officer, I've never seen anybody that's been in a car wreck that was beat up as bad as that girl was. Even if they was thrown out of the vehicle or mangled up in the vehicle, I've never seen anybody that was in that kind of shape. Well, I truly believe if I hadn't stopped the vehicle, I don't think they would ever come home. The reason he wasn't detained is because I didn't have no proof of where it actually happened. I had no paperwork stating anything was out of the ordinary or anything. She wouldn't tell us who done it because of the fear factor. I think she feared more for the child than she did her own life. That's why she didn't say.
Once they were separated, once she was in the car and away from him, she told them that, in fact, Robbie had been the one who had beaten her. The police could tell that she was very badly beaten. They took her to the hospital in Oklahoma.
Deanna Howell presented at my emergency room in Anadarko Hospital in Anadarko, Oklahoma. I took photos of Deanna in the emergency room. She obviously was still in fear of her ex-husband. And when I went out and asked the officer, could he please tell me where her ex-husband was located, with the intent of finding out where he was incarcerated and being held at, when he piped off to me that he's somewhere between here and North Carolina, I guess.
Robbie was left at the side of the road in Oklahoma because she hadn't told police before he left that he was the one who beat her, and he made his way back to North Carolina. Once he got back to North Carolina, he was interviewed by law enforcement and admitted to beating her so badly that he almost broke his fingers. So.
Even with all there's a lot of dark things that happen up here, like Deanna's case, but I do love these mountains. That's Jack and Jason. That's October, and he died the next August cleaning up an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. I look at that picture of his hair shining in the sun. And that was one of my jobs, was to take care of his hair to make sure he didn't have split ends. So that when he went out to go pick up women, that one of the things that, that would draw women to him was his long blonde hair. He had a beautiful smile.
You stayed with this guy?
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. I mean, he told me, and I absolutely, that's the part that always, it's so interesting to me. It's like, the standard question, why did you leave? Why did you leave? Why did you leave? Well, he was trained by the United States Marine Corps to hunt people down and kill them, and he told me if I left, he would hunt me down and kill me. That's why I didn't leave. I used to pull what he would call my disappearing acts, and that would be, I would, get the boys and get out, because it just was getting too intense. But I would always go back because at least I knew where he was. At least I knew the routine. I knew what to expect. But, it's a terrible way to live, to always be looking over your shoulder. He also had good sides, too. I mean, I remember being in the funeral home, looking at his body, and starting at the top of his head and going down, and looking at his hands and thinking that his hands were both a weapon. And it was also with those hands that he taught me how to garden. So it's not clean. It's complicated. There's just a lot more to it than people are willing to give women credit for. This picture, that picture right there, that picture was taken the last day that he was nice. On that one day, it was a beautiful fall day, and he said, let's go right up on the parkway. And it was just so out of the ordinary. But I was thrilled, that we were going to have a good day. And it was a great day.
Was just confirmed that we were still on and told to be there at 8:30. I am nervous about testifying. I don't know really I don't know what's going on. I guess I'll find out this morning. Everybody's telling me to be strong, be truthful, and that they're praying for me. Yesterday, when I got up, there was just something inside of me, this feeling that I had that I needed to, after the trial is over, give Robbie a picture of Martina. I just want him to know pretty much what he's missed, and that he's missed a lot in the last 2 years. I mean, his daughter just really growed up a lot, and if he hadn't have done what he did, he would have been there for it. I'm not going to let him get away with what he done to me, my daughters, to other women out there who I'm sure he's done it to. And nobody should get away with this. Nobody.
I'm reading from a portion of the trial transcript. The defense lawyer stated in his opening statement that what really happened here was they went on a family trip. And it was a trip that she was willing to go on and happy to go on. The government, I argued that it wasn't a voluntary trip, that she was kidnapped and beaten along the way, and that the jury should find him guilty of both counts, the kidnapping and the interstate domestic violence. The government called the nurse who saw Deanna in Oklahoma, several of the people who had received strange phone calls from Deanna during the trip. Deanna, of course, testified.
When Deanna took the witness stand, my heart was pounding because I understood the consequences of this trial. If he were to be found not guilty, he'd be back out on the streets and he'd be a threat to her again. But when I see what Deanna has done, that she's faced her abuser, she's walked into federal court, she's taken the witness stand, I'm just completely astonished at her courage.
The jury made their decision of guilty on both counts, and I feel absolutely awesome. I could feel the tears coming. They didn't actually start falling, but I could feel them coming. They want to come now. I'm so happy. I will be glad to get home to Martina.
I'll be glad for you to get home to Martina. I know she wants her mom home.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. Robbie was sentenced to almost 21 years in federal prison. But the sad and tragic reality is that the majority of the time he serves will be for kidnapping Deanna, not for beating her. I can't help thinking about the fact that after Robbie kidnapped Deanna and almost killed her, when she came back, she had to listen to the DAs, to the police, to the defense attorney, and even her own family ask her why she didn't just leave. When in reality, that's precisely what she did do. She left. And he retaliated by kidnapping her and beating her for 4.5 days. So she did what everyone wanted her to do. And she almost paid for it with her life. I've been training advocates for a lot of years, since 1990. And I'm always so astonished and moved at the people who want to come into this movement and do this work, because it's not easy work. It can be heartbreaking and frustrating, but it can also be unbelievably uplifting. And you see things and hear things that you couldn't make up. And you witness victims shedding that skin and just leaving the violence behind. It's just wonderful.
We are at a place that I'm looking at hoping to rent. A new step, a new beginning. Getting out of my parents' house and starting over a new life.
The inside of the house, that blind is not pulled straight anyway. But the lady said to tell you she's packing up moving, so there's stuff sitting around. This is a bedroom, stuff sitting in here, and the chest of drawers. And self-cleaning oven, new refrigerator, washer and dryer, commode, big good shower, tub. That's it. Plus a beautiful view.
Yes, that's what we just talking about. Love it.
Parkway that way, Grandfather Mountain that way. You can see Grandfather Mountain today. Some days you can't see it when it gets real hazy, but you can see it good today.
I love it. It's perfect.